everyone, I am Dr. Sonal Jain from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. In this series of forensic science lecture, today we are going to talk about printed document analysis or printed meta-analysis. When we talk about the forensic science as a domain, we have many branches where we have question document analysis, forensic chemistry and toxicology, fingerprint analysis, forensic biology, forensic genetics. But today, the topic will revolve around the printed matter analysis. As soon as man is evolving, we are moving from handwriting to the printed matters. So, when we are talking about the printed document analysis, we are majorly concerning the printed matter which is coming from the computer printouts. We are not talking about here the printing technologies, for example, the lithographic technology, etc. This is about the printed matter which is coming from various different computer printouts. Beforehand, there were so many documents which were made with the handwriting, with the typewriting, but as the typewriter evolved, we have various computer printouts. So, depending upon how the different printers were made, their printing technologies also varies. Depending upon the different printing technologies, the print which is coming out of the computer printer also varies. So, in this lecture, we will learn about different printing technologies, what are the various class and individual characteristics of those printing technologies, and if a question documents come to the scene of crime, if you have found any question document, come to the analysis for the lab, how to differentiate between those printed documents. To start with, one of the most extraordinary skills that we as human beings possess is written communication. Unlike a conversation, our written words allow us to transmit ideas not only over distance but also over time. Our progression from pictographs to graphical user interface has taken place over a remarkably short time. So, the first written communication which was found in the caves, and then now we are at a point where we are using various graphical users interface for our communication. So, this has taken place in a remarkably shorter period of time. At no time in man's history, however, have the documents we make and print gone through more dramatic technologies than in the past 30 years. So, when we talk about when the human being started with the written communication, firstly, the evidence of written communication are found from the various cavemans which are present in various caves. They have various drawings. Then moving forward, the written communication moved to the leaves of the various trees, and still we have certain historical books where the man have written or documented their thoughts on the leaves. Then moving towards that, we started the use of various other instruments, ink, pen, pencil, etc. But as we see, in the late 20th century or the starting of the 21st century, the man has moved through a more dramatic technological changes, where we have started from the writing to the typewriting, and from the typewriting to the printing technologies. Currently, if we talk about the most of the things which we go have the printed matter technologies involved. We have computer printouts involved in them. So, if we talk about the history of this printing, it has probably gone through 4 distinct technological phases. Firstly, the invention and adaptation of movable recastable metal type. Secondly, the industrial revolution, the use of steam powered mechanical presses and the office typewriter. Thirdly, the adaptation of photographic processes by the printing industry, flexography, photogravure, offset, etc. And now, the fourth and the last one, the digital era, which talks about the computer typesetting, electronic fonts and graphical user interface. So, this lecture mainly concentrates over the digital era, where nowadays even if we are communicating in our classroom teaching, if we are taking their assignments, that is also in the form of computer printouts. If we are talking about the various degrees, where various documents which are of importance, they are also computer printouts. So, we must know that what are the different procedures through which different computer printouts are being made. So, when photocopied and computer generated documents are particularly susceptible to text insertion, page substitution, cut and paste manipulation. Previously, the various wills which were formed, they were typewritten wills, but nowadays typewriter is obsolete, and mostly what we are encountering the cases which uses the computer generated documents. For example, if a person has complained about a will, the queries which can come are like that the new page is inserted between the already written will. For example, a will consists of 3 pages, and the person who wants to take advantage of that insert a special page in that, then we have to identify whether the whole document is made from a similar printer or from different printers. If it is made from a similar printer, can we point out whether the same document has been taken from the exactly same printer or not? We also see sometimes the text is inserted between the whole document. That we also can identify while seeing maybe they have reduced the font is not similar, the ink is different, and if they are from different printers, then they have different impacts. So, in such cases, the queries can come and we have to look for the susceptible text insertions, the page substitutions, the cut and paste manipulation, and the use of multiple genuine documents to form fraudulent new composites. This is due in part of the ease with which such alterations can be made where we use such technologies. So, in the forensic documents, the casework involves questions about the source, generation, and authenticity of copied and printed documents. When we talk about the source, we have to say what kind of printer is used to print this document, how this document is generated, whether this document which we have is the original copy or it is a forged document or something has been added to the new copy. So, being document examiners, we are likely to encounter more printed documents in our casework. It is necessary to have a means by which we can identify a particular printer as the one used for the production of a question documents. So, for that we must know various class and individual characteristics, and we must have a good grasp of the processes involved to properly examine the diversity of question material presented. Once we have the knowledge of the various processes which are being involved in the printed matter technologies, then we can easily identify whether this question document has been made through the one printer or from different printers or the exactly same printer. So, when the types of cases we are encountering is the examination of documents with respect to writing or signature to ascertain whether they are produced by hand or electronically. So, the signatures, so for example, if a person has signed and other person has put an electronically produced signature, then whether we can identify it or not, whether it is a handwritten signature or someone has put an electronic signature indirectly on the paper. The second type of cases which we encounter is the examination of electronically produced writing or signatures to identify the nature of machine used for their production. So, as we said, various different types of computer printers are available. For example, broadly classified into impact and non-impact printers. Depending upon which kind of printer is being used, we can easily identify that this particular printout has come from this printer or not. Thirdly, to examine the characteristic of electronically produced writings or signature on the documents to identify the particular machine. Here we are pointing towards the machine. For example, there is a laserjet printer and two documents, they are printed from the laserjet printer. Now we have to identify whether these documents are produced by a single laserjet printer or from different laserjet printers. For that we have to go into the individual characteristics to identify whether both the documents have been produced from a similar machine or they have been produced from two different machines. So, being a question document examiner, there are various questions which has to be answered. Firstly, is the document original one or copy? For example, just to elaborate this, there is a degree from a college. If someone has forged that degree, then we have to see that this printed document or the printed degree is given to the student or he has forged or made a copy of this degree. Secondly, the printing technology to be identified. These can be easily identified based on the class characteristics. We can tell whether this document is produced by an impact printer or a non-impact printer. Thirdly, has more than one technology been used to prepare the document? Yes. We can also identify that based on the class characteristics whether a single document may contain two different types of technologies. That can easily be answered using as the class characteristic. The case which usually comes here is that supposedly there is a already written original document, but for my advantage I want to add certain points to that document. Let's say there was an experience certificate from a particular office to an employee, but that employee wanted to add more things. So, he might use a different printer to add certain lines about himself. That is preparing the document which he is procuring is an original, but the text which he has inserted at a later point of time, that we have to identify whether that has been done through a different technology or through a similar technology or through a similar printer or a different printer. So, in a multi-page document, is there any evidence whether one or more pages are prepared using some other method? So, just to know everything about this, we must know how these different documents are being prepared. First of all, if we look at the difference between the electronically produced documents and the handwritten documents, the first is it is an output of an electric machine, but the handwritten documents are output of brain and hand. We know that whatever we are writing, whenever we are writing our name or we are signing, there will be always present some variations. We call them as natural variations. Our handwriting, if we look as a whole, it will look similar, but if we go into the deep of that, there will be some variations present because human mind cannot work like a machine. If we are writing a word and if we are writing it again, then it will not be exactly similar. For example, if I am writing a word, the apple, so if I am writing it again, the hole in the A, the lines of the P, that will vary. So, that is the difference between an electronically produced document and a handwritten document. This can be easily identified whether the document is electronically produced or handwritten on that basis. So, in the electronically produced document, two patterns or design could be alike, but natural variation is bound to come except tracing. In certain cases, people they try to trace the signature of another person. So, there the natural variation won't be there because the exact tracing is done from the previous signatures. But can we identify whether the tracing is present or not? Yes, there are certain marks which are present where we can identify whether it is done with tracing or without tracing. Then we see the distortion of image of signature or handwriting visible under magnification, but when we talk about, there is no such distortion which is present in the handwritten signatures. This can also be identified whenever we are identifying any printed documents or any handwritten documents. Whenever we magnify, we see things which are not visible to the naked eye. We have certain instruments, for example, DocuBox, VSC 5000, VSC 9000, where we can identify certain documents and we can magnify these documents at a very high magnification. Through that, we can identify, we can see certain things which are not visible at the low magnification. We can track the signature and handwriting which cannot be traced in the electronically produced documents, but the writing instruments cannot be traced while we are talking about which is handwritten handwriting. So, if we see an example of an handwritten signature, there we can see the ink deposition may vary depending upon the point of pressure which is put by the person at different levels. As we see the signature, we see strokes with the higher ink deposition and the strokes with the lower ink deposition. This is because whenever a person is doing signature, is signing, depending upon how he is holding the instrument, there could be certain variations, and certain time variations are present with the pen pauses at the exact places, ink deposition at certain places and less ink at certain places, which can tell this is the magnified image of a handwritten signature. But if we see a scanned signature, this scanned signature we show that the ink deposition is similar at each and every point, and at certain points the ink deposition is more. And this magnified image we can see at the background there are certain multicolored dots, which tells us that this is a scanned signature. But if you look these both signatures with the naked eye, you will not find any difference. These images are magnified up to 100x, and then we can see what is at the back, how the ink differentiation is there, what are the various spots which can be found at the back of the page. Then in the color photocopy, when to identify, we can see the process is like that there are certain yellow dots which are present, and these yellow dots helps us to identify that this original document has been made by colored photocopying it. So, as again I want to clarify this, that whenever we are analyzing any document and putting at magnification, there are so many things which can look at the magnification and helps us to identify or differentiate whether this is an original handwritten signature, this is a scanned photocopy, this is a color photocopy, or this is a printed document. So, to know why these features come in these handwritings and how we can differentiate between different computer printouts, we have to look and study what are the different types of computer printers. So, when we talk about the computer printers, it is a device that produces a hard copy of documents stored in electronic form, mainly on physical media such as paper or transparencies. Many printers used as computer peripherals and are permanently attached by a printer cable to a computer which serve as a document source. So, because of the popularity of personal and small business computers, the computer generators are being submitted to forensic science lab with increased numbers. Nowadays, most of the cases which are coming to the forensic document examination, they include some or different kind of printing mechanism. So, type they are based impact printers and non-impact printers. Impact printers is when the printing technology or the printing head is directly touching the paper, that is impact printers, which happens in the case of dot matrix printer. But in the case of non-impact printers, where we have the inkjet or laser jet printers, the printing technology's letterhead do not directly touch the paper, those are called as non-impact printers. So, with the impact printers, as the name suggests, there will be certain impact points and that will be visible in the computer printout. So, impact printers, these are the bit image impact type printers. They have the quality of printing bidirectionally to speed up the printing operation, that is one row from left to right and then the next row from right to left. This printer can be classified according to the number of pins used in their print head. The 9-pin print head is most common and low cost printer, but their print quality is very poor. Then we have a 24 print head, which is of highest quality dot matrix printers, and they provide very high quality print. So, this image shows a printer with a 9 pin, with an 18 pin and with a 24 pin. The 9 pin is with the lowest quality, but a 24 pin is with the highest quality. So, how this printing mechanism works in the case of a dot matrix printer. So, the print head shuttles back and forth across the width of the paper, and a number of thin print wires on the head, it acts as hammers. A print pin mechanism is a combination of permanent magnet, electromagnet, spring and print pins. So, the printer's process sends the signal to the print head based on the information code from the computer, and also controls the movements of the print head and the platen to move the paper. So, as we can see in the image, there are electromagnets in the front. Before that we have permanent magnets, and then we have spring. At the back we have printing pins. So, whenever the signal is generated, the electromagnet, the permanent magnets are there, they will send a charge to the electromagnet, which helps in the pressing of the spring, and the spring is attached to the printing pins. These pins are in the form of a dots. So, for example, if we type alphabet A, the proper signal will go where the pins will go out and they will type the alphabet A in the form of dots. When we see the dot matrix printout, all the alphabets, they have smaller dots through which our whole document is being made. So, the pins in the printer head are vertically aligned, and one end of each pin is connected to individual solenoid or electromagnet. As we can see that each pin is connected to an electromagnet. The current from the processor activates this electromagnet and it causes the pin to strike towards the ribbon. So, whenever we have the printing pin, the current will be there and the specific printing pin will go and impact on the paper. So, after the pin strikes, the electromagnet is de-energized and the spring pulls the print pin back into its original position. The printer head moves horizontally across the paper. As we said, these are the bidirectional printers. They move from left to right as well as right to left. So, the whole process involves various type of printing pins where we have electromagnets, where we have spring, printing pin is there, the ribbon is there, and when a particular pin, a charge is being transferred to that pin will leave a dot impact on the paper. So, that will make our printout on the paper. So, this print pin strikes the paper through an inked ribbon. The pin's impact is precisely timed so that it strikes on the right position in the character matrix at the right time. When we talk about the various characteristics of the dot matrix printer, the dot matrix printout, as the name suggests, is made up of various dots. You can see in the image how the various dots have made us the letter M. So, various dots will strike at the different position and a particular letter will be formed out. This happens in a dot matrix printer. This is an image of letter Y, how it is print out using a dot matrix printer. So, these printouts, they have dots, and being the impact printers, their impact is shown on the paper with the highest ink deposition. So, now when the case will come in the forensic science lab and we have to identify, then we have to look for various class and individual characteristics, which are the dot matrix printer is the low resolution printing. Being an impact printer, the depth of the dots can be seen under the magnification. Diameters of pins and the impression they produce can be seen. We can see the distance between adjacent pin centers. A standard ribbon of dot matrix printer contains carbon wax based ink which is insoluble in water. Shadowing can be seen and the presence of missing dots due to defects in print head can be seen. There is non-uniform printing due to old ribbon, head's print end is worn out. That helps us in identifying the particular machine, and the smearing of impression on paper surface can be seen in the dot matrix. So, to conclude, I will say if the printing is non-uniform, the worn out smearing of impressions are there, then we can conclusively tell that the printout has been made from the dot matrix printer, and we can identify in the forensic science lab the particular printout through which the printout has come from. Thank you.